The extraordinary details of a bikie public execution at Perth Motorplex have been revealed for the first time. A court was told a former soldier was paid thousands to plan and carry out the murder of Rebels boss Nick Martin.
Perth, Western Australia, December 12, 2020. The air is thick with the sound of engines and burning rubber. Families gather around the Kwinana Motorplex, watching drag races under the floodlights. Children cheer, cameras flash, and then, one sound changes everything. A single gunshot. Nick Martin, the former president of the Rebels Motorcycle Club, collapses. A sniper's bullet tears through his chest. Within seconds, he's gone. That night, Australia's biker underworld changed forever. It wasn't just a killing. It was a statement and a warning. The outlaw world had declared war. Nick Martin's death wasn't random. It was the result of decades of blood, power, and betrayal. A story that began long before that fateful night. The birth of an empire. To understand the murder, you need to understand the world Nick Martin ruled, the Australian biker underworld. Back in the 1960s, biker culture exploded across the country. Veterans from Vietnam came home restless, angry, and addicted to adrenaline. They found brotherhood on the open road and control in motorcycle clubs. What started as a symbol of freedom turned into something far darker. The Rebels Motorcycle Club was born in Brisbane in 1969. Founded by Clinton Walker, it began as a group of mechanics and riders. But as Australia's underworld expanded, so did they. Their motto became legend: outlaws forever, forever outlaws. By the 2000s, the Rebels weren't just a club, they were a criminal syndicate. Drugs, weapons, prostitution, extortion, all ran through their network. With over 3,000 members across the nation, the Rebels became Australia's largest outlaw motorcycle club. And in Western Australia, one man ruled their empire, Nick Martin. The King of Perth. Nick Martin was born to fight. He wasn't educated, but he was smart, street smart. Tattooed, muscular, and fearless, he was both charming and dangerous. In the world of bikers, respect isn't given, it's earned in blood. And Martin earned plenty. By the late 2000s, he was running the Rebels Perth chapter. To the police, he was a key figure in the organized crime hierarchy. To his men, he was untouchable. Martin ran strip clubs, protection rackets, and drug operations. He had contacts in the Middle East, bikie connections in Queensland, and a reputation for keeping his word and his enemies silent. But with power comes pride. And in Perth's underworld, pride can get you killed. The rising threat. As the Rebels dominated the West, another name returned, the Hells Angels. Their colors, red and white. Their logo, the Death Head. Their goal, expansion. The Angels moved into Perth quietly, but their reputation arrived before them. Across the world, the Hells Angels were infamous for violence and dominance. And wherever they went, blood followed. At first, the Rebels and the Angels coexisted, but that peace didn't last. Turf wars broke out, over drug routes, nightclubs, and territory. Tattoo shops were firebombed, bars were attacked, beatings turned to shootings. Police began calling it the Perth Biker War, and in the center of that war, two men stood face to face. Dane Brajkovic versus Nick Martin. Dane Brajkovic was a walking threat. His body covered in Hells Angels tattoos, gold teeth flashing every time he smiled. He was everything the media imagined a biker to be: loud, fearless, and dangerous. He and Nick Martin had history. Once friendly, then rivals. In 2020, the tension exploded. Outside a Perth bar, CCTV captured Brajkovic punching Martin to the ground. The footage went viral. Headlines read, "Rebels boss knocked down by Hell's Angel." For the public, it was gossip. For the underworld, it was humiliation. Nick Martin had been disrespected on camera. In the Outlaw Code, there's no forgiveness for that. Only revenge. The Sniper's Bullet. December 12, 2020. Kwinana Motorplex. A drag race under the stars. Nick Martin stood with his wife, his stepdaughter, and his friends, unaware that a trained killer was watching. The sniper lay prone in the dark, hidden among bushes. Military precision. Breath steady, finger on the trigger. When the moment came, he didn't hesitate. One shot. A bullet traveled hundreds of meters, straight into Martin's chest. He collapsed instantly. Screams filled the night. A nearby spectator was hit by the same round. Chaos erupted. The shooter packed up and vanished. No trace, no witnesses, no shell casing. It was a perfect hit. The investigation. The murder sent shockwaves across Australia. Police immediately launched Operation Ravello, one of the largest investigations in Western Australia's history. Hundreds of detectives, analysts, and tactical units were assigned. They raided homes, interrogated club members, and tapped phones. But the underworld stayed silent. No one talked. For weeks, the case went cold. Then, a break, a tip about a former soldier with sniper training. When police brought him in, the confession stunned them. He admitted he was paid to do it, $300,000 for the hit. But he didn't say who hired him. Rumors spread. Some said it was an inside job, a rebels member tired of Martin's leadership. Others whispered it was Hell's Angels' revenge. The truth? Still a mystery. The sniper was sentenced, but the mastermind remains unknown. Retaliation and fear. A few weeks later, revenge came knocking. Shots were fired into the home of Dane Brajkovic, the same Hell's Angel who had punched Martin months earlier. Police feared a full-scale war. They flooded Perth's streets with patrols and launched coordinated raids. Dozens of arrests followed, guns, cash, and drugs seized. Still, everyone knew this wasn't over. In the outlaw world, blood demands blood. The funeral. Nick Martin's funeral was a show of force. Hundreds of bikers, from rebels, Mongols, and even rival clubs, rode through Perth in one massive convoy. Engines thundered through the city as police helicopters circled overhead. Martin's coffin was black, trimmed in chrome, with the rebels' insignia engraved on top. Snipers stood on rooftops. The streets were silent except for the sound of engines and tears. To some, it was a farewell. To others, a declaration of vengeance. The aftermath. After Martin's death, the rebels began to fracture. Infighting spread between factions. Younger members accused leaders of betrayal. Some switched clubs. Others disappeared. Meanwhile, the Hells Angels continued to grow stronger in Perth. New chapters emerged. Old rivals, the Mongols and Comanchero, fought for dominance. Perth became a battlefield. Police called it a war with no borders. Operation Ravello and the crackdown. Authorities had no choice but to strike back. Operation Ravello expanded nationwide. Police raided clubhouses, tattoo parlors, warehouses. They seized drugs, weapons, and millions in cash. Task Force Maxima, the Australian Federal Police, and the National Anti-Gang Squad joined forces. For the first time, the government treated biker clubs as organized crime syndicates, not social groups. Phone taps revealed coded messages. Undercover officers infiltrated chapters. Dozens of bikers were arrested. But even behind bars, the clubs adapted. Orders were passed through lawyers, families, and encrypted phones. The biker empire was wounded, but not dead. The legacy. Nick Martin's assassination marked the end of an era. He was the last of the old school bikers, men who believed in loyalty, respect, and brotherhood. What came after was something colder, ruthless, corporate. The new generation of bikers saw the underworld as business, a billion-dollar empire built on drugs, guns, and fear. Brotherhood had turned into hierarchy. Honor had turned into profit. Even today, the rebels remain one of the largest and most dangerous motorcycle clubs in Australia. The Hells Angels, their eternal rivals, continue to expand, both chasing control of the same cities. Their feud has lasted for decades, and there's no end in sight. Outro. Nick Martin lived fast. He ruled an empire of chrome and chaos. But in the outlaw world, no one stays untouchable forever. His death sent a message that still echoes through the streets of Perth. No matter how powerful you become, there's always someone waiting in the dark. In Australia's biker underworld, loyalty ends with the last bullet, and the war still rages today. Engines roar, fade to black. In memory of Nick Martin, 1979 to 2020.